So, hello everybody, welcome to our webinar today, so a guide to revision tips. I'm Hazel Lott-Canning, I'm the Head of Operations for Professional Academy, and I think I recognise some of these names. So just a bit of housekeeping before we start. If everybody could keep their mics off, apart from our speakers, obviously, and if you've got any questions, pop them in the Q&A tab or in the chat, and we'll come to those at the end of the session. Okay, so this session is all about helping you prepare for either endpoint assessment or end exams or tests that you've got coming up. And we're going to be hearing from Georgie, who's just completed her endpoint assessment for her apprenticeship, and from Margaret, who's one of our esteemed tutors who delivers our workshops, again, who I think some of you may have met already. And she's going to be giving us some advice. So, first of all, we're going to speak to Georgie. So, Georgie, would you mind just giving us a bit of an introduction about you, what you're doing at the moment, what your role is?
Yeah, of course. So, hello, nice to meet everyone virtually. I recently completed my level 4 marketing executive apprenticeship, and I achieved a distinction, which I'm very happy about. I previously worked in a boutique London-based digital marketing agency as a project lead. And now I'm working on developing my design skills further, which along with my knowledge and experience that I've gained from the role and as an apprentice with Professional Academy, I want to combine these and become more effective at visual communication. So that's kind of the path I'm taking now.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So how did you get into marketing in the first place?
So I was fortunate as I initially met the CEO of the agency through a referral, who's a friend of his. And his agency at the time was growing very rapidly. So they offered me a role as project lead to help just delegate tasks and keep on top of deadlines. Mm-hmm. And then around 3 months into working there, they offered me the opportunity to become an apprentice. To develop my skills of the core marketing principles, theories, frameworks, to improve my understanding, but also to allow me to take on additional responsibilities and build those relationships with the clients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I've been told you have some helpful revision sort of tools that you've built of your own, which you're happy to share with some of our students. So
yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So the biggest thing that helped me during my EPA was understanding that you really needed to do active revision rather than passive. So active is all about obviously not just reading over or copying text or highlighting, but actually trying to learn and memorize the information. So just a few tips that I did that really helped me out was obviously watch and read all of the resources available on the refinery. And then I would write a document of notes against each topic in my own words, because that's the best way to learn when it's in your own words. You're not just copying it, keeps it active. And then shut your computer or go onto a different tab and write down absolutely everything that you remember of that topic. Just brain dump it. And then check your own work, different color pen or different color font or whatever. And then ask questions. So what was the most interesting thing you learned that day about that topic? Because it keeps it as a little highlight of that topic that you'll remember. And then you'll be oh, actually, I remember way more about that than I originally thought. How does this topic tie into business goals? What other relationships does it have with other topics? So for example, in the marketing executive apprenticeship, a SWOT analysis is to be conducted after a pestle, and then also you can use a TOES to follow it up. So finding all those connections really helps when before the exams, because that's some of the questions that they're asking. Mm-hmm. And then also daily brain dump. So every single day, or whenever you've dedicated time to revise for these, just writing down what you remember, short summaries against all of these topics, just to keep it fresh. Because I don't know if you've heard of I think it's called spaced repetition, or like the 1-2-4-7 rule. Instead of just like revising a topic once and then like continue revising new things, refresh that every single day or whenever you're putting time towards these topics. And then, as Hazel was saying, like one thing that I made, so flashcards was so big for me. Like I would do them daily, especially as I was coming up to the exams, like every single day, because that was just, that's an active recall method too. So obviously, like I've finished my apprenticeship now, and I'll keep my flashcards and I keep all my notes because I'll never know when I need to refer to them in the future. But also think like I kind of want them to be useful for other people. So what I've done is I've turned all of those physical flashcards into digital flashcards, and I want to share them with like the rest of the apprentices with Professional Academy. So I've created links. I've shared them with my former mentor, Diane, but they'll be available. I think Hazel will probably help sort out how they'll be available to other people.
Yeah, so I've got the links, so I can, if anybody wants any flashcards at the end of the session, just drop me a message via email, and then I can get those sent over to you. So I think they're valuable. So I should mention you've been doing a level 4 marketing executive apprenticeship, but they will be valuable for level 3, level 6 for everybody. So
yeah, exactly. And there's like 210 flashcards there. It's like a lot of flashcards, and all you need to do is create like a really quick free account on this website called Quizlet, and you'll have access to them immediately.
Yeah, that's one of the free tools I was going to speak to everybody about. So Quizlet is really good. There's also WordWall as well, which is a really good sort of community-based learning platform. It's got quizzes on it. You can create your own quizzes. You can look at other people's quizzes. There's lots of platforms out there like that. Kahoot as well is one of my favorite. If you know me, you know I love a Kahoot. So there's all kinds of learning tools that you can use to prepare and sort of, check your knowledge against whatever standard it is you're working to. Okay, that's great. Georgie, can you tell us a little bit about how you structured your time? Especially when you were going into EPA, like preparing for your your multiple choice test that you had to do as part of the apprenticeship.
So obviously
time for that?
You have to like hand in your project plan summary, and as soon as that gets approved is when you get given your MCT exam date. So as soon as I was given that, I like just wrote on a piece of paper how many days I had left, and I kind of turned it into like a checklist. I don't know if it's a bit daunting, like crossing out each day as it goes past, but that worked really well for me because I was then able to see how many days it was and how many KSBs I needed, because obviously we had that KSB, I think it's called like a cheat sheet or something, and it shows each KSB against what area of the EPA you're working to. So I just like match it against that, and I did put like a lot of time in, because like you work to what grade you want to get, kind of thing. And I was very determined to try and get a good grade, so I did put a lot of time towards it, but definitely making sure, because obviously we're working still, making sure that you're still getting that designated day off to study for the exams and stuff. So mine was on a Friday, so every Friday I knew I had that entire day to work towards it, and that really helped.
That's good. So sometimes this is called the Einstein window. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of this, but it's a theory that when you know you have a chunk of time that you work the best in. So that could be the morning for some people, that could be after lunch, it could be afternoon, it could be evenings, weekends, protecting that piece of time so that other distractions aren't coming into it as well. So and making use of all those really good free study tools as well, things like Pomodoro for like productivity. There's I think there's a platform called Monday, which is really good for like planning and setting yourself goals and tasks. Google Keep is really good as well as another free one that as part of the Google suite of apps that there is really good for like checklists, setting yourself targets, goals, that kind of thing. So there's loads of free stuff out there, and if you have got access to Microsoft 365, if you make sure that you go into your little 9 dots at the top of your page, have a look at all the apps in there. There are so many free ones in there which can really help you for, like, especially for with marketing, like Gantt charts and Kanban boards and all kinds of stuff that can help you with that productivity and sort of planning your time. So thank you. That's really nice, Georgie. Oh, I've lost my, where's my page gone? Are there any other revision tips that you have?
Let me have a think. So I've got like a few things I wrote down. Oh, I made posters of every single like framework and matrix and model and stuck them all over my wall just for that like daily visual like reminder. That really helped as well, because especially in the MCT and then also in the professional discussion, you'll need to know these frameworks and the theories, and having that like in your brain makes everything so much easier. For like example, if it's the BCG matrix, if they like mention that immediately in your head, you get this vision and you know exactly what part they're talking about, and it makes things 100% easier.
So, and obviously for the project as well that you had to write, I know some of our CIM qualification students are on this call as well. So with things like assignment project writing, did you have any tips for that at all?
So obviously the project is 3 months long, isn't it? Mine was a little bit different because I did switch my project like halfway through just because of changing business objectives and things like that. But making notes of every single change and everything that you're doing in those 3 months in a document, and then when it comes to writing it up, it's so much easier because you have all of the information of what you've been doing there. Also, obviously, it's very heavy on like collaboration. So if multiple people have helped you with this idea, or you're creating, say, like a brief for an agency, just making sure you've got all of that information down makes it a whole lot easier. And keeping it like, don't waffle, even though it's like 3,500 words, at least for the level 4 marketing executive one. It sounds like a lot, but because it's a 3-month project, there's a lot to put in it. So really trying to keep it concise and making sure it's purely evidencing the KSBs. Yeah, that was the best way for me, because initially my first draft I think was a lot of waffle, and then I just had to like cut it down and be like, okay, like let's just focus on what they want to read.
Yeah, so I'd say again for our CIM qualification students, when you're doing your assignments and you're looking at your themes that you have to pick for your assignments there, you'd have a similar kind of thing where you're using work-based examples and things like that. So yeah, so some really helpful tips there. Thank you, Georgie. So next we will move on to our second speaker, Margaret, who is one of our, as I mentioned, one of our esteemed tutors. So Margaret, could you please just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you've got to where you are?
Esteemed, I like that. And first of all, before I do, I'd like to say 2 things to Georgie. One, a huge congratulations on getting the distinction. That's brilliant. And the other is, when we first came on to the meeting, it was out of context. Of course, I do remember you now, as you were talking, and I do apologise for that.
No worries, honestly.
Oh, it's my age. Okay. Hi, everybody. And as Hazel says, I'm Margaret Hyde. How did I get into it? Well, I'm not telling you how long ago I started out, because it's a long time ago. And I actually started out as shorthand typist, would you believe? But I was never going to be satisfied with that. And I ended up doing a business studies degree at night school. So I do understand what it's like to be studying when you're working full time. It's really hard work. I know. I did it 2 nights a week for 5 years, and I swore blind after that I wouldn't study again. However, I was working as a secretary in a press office in public transport in Manchester, the passenger transport executive, and I ended up as the press officer when the press officer left. I loved it. and I did a short spell. This shows how long ago it is. Deregulation of public transport happened, everything changed, and I actually got made redundant. And I ended up working as a press officer in the health service, the NHS, for a short time before becoming marketing executive of Metrolink, Manchester's tramway, which was, well, I actually joined there before it opened. Really exciting time it was, and I was doing the PR and marketing. And at that time, I decided to do a postgraduate, and I did a master's, an MA in marketing management, strategic marketing management. And unfortunately, after a few years there, we got taken over, and I once again got made redundant. And I got another job working in the health service again as a communications manager. And that really took me over the next, I can't remember how many years, until I decided that I wanted a complete change of direction. And in 2009, I decided to take a risk. I left the NHS and I went to do a PhD at Manchester Metropolitan University, which was looking at service quality, non-clinical service quality in healthcare. So it's all about, it links quite closely to customer service in a way. And from there, I became a lecturer there, got a job there until just after COVID, when there were voluntary redundancies, and I came to work for Cambridge. And I worked for Cambridge 2 days a week. And I hope I'm right in saying this, the fact that I've had a mixed career from marketing, PR, and education, that I can meld them all together to bring something to the party. So yeah, I've had a great, I think it's 2.5 years. I think I've been working for Cambridge, something like that. Anyway, I work there part-time and really enjoy meeting all of you students. Yeah, so that's me.
Thank you. So have you got any particular revision tips from when you were doing your PhD, and how you were how did you structure your time? Because you said obviously you're working at the same time as well.
Doing a PhD, it's a bit different because the biggest piece of your work is between 60 and 80,000 word thesis. Mm-hmm. But having said that, you also have a viva, which is an oral with 2, maybe 3 examiners, and it's called defending your thesis, and they question your thesis. So yes, you have to refresh your memory as to what the theme, because when you do that, you do a literature review with lots of different theories. And I would sort of look at think about in my mind what the main points were. And I basically put stickers on with headings. It's a bit different with a PhD, how you do it. But in terms of, I would make sure that, as you said, about putting time aside for me, it would be at home, and I was given a bit of time at work, but it didn't work because people were coming in the office and sort of interrupting, and that's no good. So I think really, I'm trying to think, you've caught me on the hop there with doing revising the PhD, because it's a little bit different. But some of the things that I would say, which goes right across the board, is one thing is to look after yourself. That might sound silly, but making sure that you're fresh, getting sleep patterns, if you can do regular sleep patterns. I know you get stressed and whatnot. Taking regular exercise, being hydrated, good diet to keep yourself actually as well as you possibly can. The other thing, so that's just a little bit about looking after yourself. And there were some of the things that Georgie was saying there that I've actually got in my notes here that are, I think, very useful. Plan, have a structured plan. As I said, when I was doing it, going through my thesis, revising, I'd get stickers and sort of the main headings of the different theories I'd used, how I was applying them, etc., and thinking about what type of questions that I might be asked. I had a personal brainstorming, if that's the right thing, and then trying to answer them. I think but when you do your structured plan, think about the different topics there are and set aside time for those different topics. Organise your notes. There was something else that Georgia said that just slipped my mind at the moment. Oh yes, that was it, where you mentioned about passive and active revision. I think that is a really good point. You know, you can sit there and read your notes, and yes, you might understand them. But if you do that and you're not doing anything to sort of get them to stick, that information to stick, you're going to forget it again. So it's not a case of just reading through, maybe making some more notes. And one of the things that I had put down was flashcards. Funny, so a lot of what you said, Georgia, is what I was thinking along the lines of. I like your idea of putting posters up with the different models on, that, you know, it's almost subliminal. I can't say it's subliminal. If you walk into a room and you see these matrices and these models, that, you know, they'll start to stick. The other thing you can do is, you know, yes, of course you're going to read your notes. You know, there is an element of passive in it, but when you're reading them, making notes, test yourself to see how much you remember. Another way you could do it is to, if you've got somebody who's willing to do it, describe or explain the different frameworks, models to somebody else. That makes it stick. And it also, you've got to read it so that you understand it, because you're passing that information on to somebody else in a way that they can understand. Set some achievable goals. So, you know, don't expect too much of yourself. Don't sit down at, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning and then just carry on reading and making notes until, I don't know, 5 o'clock, where you've had an hour for lunch. Set some proper goals, some achievable goals. We talk about SMART when it comes into objectives: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. Well, use that principle maybe. Think about your realistic goals and, right, today I am going to do whatever. Today I am going to learn or revise Porter's 5 forces. That's achievable. Okay. Another thing which, and yes, I did do this, I might have done this more than I should have done when I was reading through my own thesis revising, I would have breaks and I'd treat myself. That treat is a reward. You don't allow yourself that reward until you've done something. So you've set a goal which is looking at Porter's 5 forces. When you've done that, go and get yourself a chocolate biscuit or whatever it is that.
Nice cup of tea.
A nice cup of tea, yeah. Yeah, maybe I did that a little bit more than I should have done, but who cares? Which takes me on to another thing, that have regular breaks. I think theory suggests that our concentration as most human beings, our concentration level is about 20 minutes before we need a bit of a break if we're doing something quite intense. So I would suggest that, I don't know, it's up to you, we're all different, but certainly after about an hour, you know, have a break, go and get yourself a drink or whatever, because you're not going to take things in. I think the other thing is, and this is important, start early. Don't cram. Don't leave it until just before the exam and think, oh, sugar, I've got to, you know, I've got an exam on my endpoint assessment or whatever next week. I'd better start revising. So do not leave it till the last minute, especially if you're all working as well. So it is difficult to find time. So those are, I will mention also, I found there is a video which is quite good on BBC, which is called BBC Bite-Size Articles, and there are a couple of videos there about revision tips, which you might find useful. Shall I read out the web address?
Let me just see if I can find it, Margaret. BBC Bite-Size Revision. Oh yeah, found it.
Oh, I was just put it right. Okay.
There we go. So I'll pop that in the chat. Margaret, one thing I did want to ask you about, obviously you've done a lot of research.
Yeah, years, yes.
So what would be your tips for effective research? Well,
I suppose it's a bit different again when you're doing research for a PhD or for an academic institute such as a university. You do have access to extensive online libraries. But having said that, if you're doing research, even though we haven't got access to that at Cambridge, very, very expensive, Google Scholar, that's a good source. So if you were wanting to find out a little bit more, I'm going to go back again with Porter's 5 forces or ANSOF or something like that, put it into Google, well, go into Google, search for Google Scholar, and then put it into Google Scholar. What I would say is that is going to throw up some academic papers, which can be useful. Some of them can be hard going to read. And what I would suggest is, if it's an academic paper, they will have an abstract at the beginning. Read the abstract. You don't need to read the whole thing. You could read the conclusion as well. But the other thing is that simply putting in Porter's 5 forces or whatever, BCG matrix or whatever, by just putting them in Google. And if you put that in Google, it will come up with various different articles. Some of them are written by private organisations, which is fine. You've still got access to them. Or go into Google and click on images, the ribbon at the top, and it will come up. So if I was looking for the BCG matrix, I'd put it in, look on images, and then I just choose one of the images, click on it, and that will take you to pages that go into more detail about that particular model. So I know I mentioned academic because my research has taken on board, you know, using academic papers, and there's no harm in doing that. But as I say, they can be hard going and to read. And I think Google and Google Scholar will probably be a good source. And as I say, going into, as a, you know, clicking on images, click on one of the images and it'll take you to the site that'll explain more about whatever the model is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you've got to remember that you have to demonstrate, apart from multiple choice, that you understand and can apply models. And that certainly comes up with the project, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that will help you do that.
Thank you. So with that as well, I just wanted to have a little chat about AI. So Georgie, did you use AI at all, ChatGPT or any of the newer platforms during endpoint assessment for research or finding things out?
I think I used it a little bit. Obviously I didn't go basically anywhere near it when it came to the project, because obviously it needs to be your own written work, and you can't be that, otherwise it counts as plagiarism. So didn't go anywhere near it when it came to that. But to be honest, I found like most of the resources on the refinery sufficient for like the level of detail that it needed. But like sometimes if I was looking more for like, instead of looking for direct answers on ChatGPT, I'd be like where would be good to learn about this topic? And then I would validate each source that it would provide me. Like I maybe have trust issues with ChatGPT or like AI with that. So I'll never fully just go and dive right in. I'll always validate it for myself, because then at least it's like, it's then on me. If I've then learned the incorrect information, it's my fault. It's not that. But yeah, I find the refinery was completely fine for the amount of information needed.
Yeah, I should add, of course, that each awarding body has their own AI use policy. So make sure you are researching what you can and can't do. I would say from some of the trends that we're seeing coming through with assignments where people are using AI, we can spot it straight away. The way it frames its answers is pretty sort of generic across all prompts that are coming through. So, but it is a good source of help for if you don't know how to structure something. So if you're wanting to find out how do I write a written report, how do I do a presentation, how do I write an essay, it's good for that, for explaining how you do something rather than getting your sources from there. So it can be really useful to us. I showed it to Margaret the other week. So
you did? Yeah. You being a bit of a
yes, I'm learning a lot about ChatGPT, and Grok is now another one, and there's Copilot obviously, and all kinds of ones that are out there. So but yeah, make sure you're not cutting and pasting when you're doing assignments or for projects and things like that. But I think it's a really good tool to use, like Georgie says, as long as you clarify your sources and check the information that's coming through, for explaining to you how to do things and how to get things started. So okay, any other tips from the pair of you? Anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, when it comes to I'll hold my hands up because I don't get involved in this side so much, but when it comes to the project or essay assignments, what I would say, if you are taking information from different sites, then you should cite them, reference them.
Yeah, as I know I don't know if you had to do it so much for the endpoint assessment project, but for our CIM students, ISM, ISP, you have to use Harvard referencing.
Yeah.
And CIM in particular have a very specific way that they like everything set out. So all of that is on the refinery, particularly in the general resources that you'll have on your module pages. If there's ever anything like that that you need help with, please get in touch with us. We are going to be putting on a assignment writing webinar a bit later in the year, specifically for letting people know how to use Harvard referencing, how to do the bibliography, what order it has to go in. Again, how to do a report, how to do a presentation, how, the different kinds of things that you might be asked to do in an assignment. If there's anything like that that you need, that you have coming up, that you want to go through in more detail, please get in touch with us so we can help you with that sooner rather than later. Okay, so I think we've come to the end of our little discussion about tips, and now we're going to move on to the question side of things. So if anybody has got a question, if they'd like to pop it in the Q&A, please feel free. So, or in the chat is fine as well. I'll just wait for some questions to come through. So in the meantime, Georgia, what would you say was the biggest challenge you faced in terms of revision?
Let me have a think. Obviously, yeah, like what Margaret was saying about protecting your time, because that is very important. Making I kind of like, I was one, as Margaret was saying, like start early as well. So the earlier you start and like the way that you plan. So when I first got my MCT exam date through, I immediately started like looking on Google and YouTube and things, like looking how to revise and get this information in my brain to stick. And I mean, that's the entire point of an apprenticeship, isn't it? Like you learn and you immediately apply, and I feel like that's the best way to learn anyway. So yeah, I do think that just Professional Academy and the things that I was also learning online set me up very well for revising. So luckily I didn't have too many barriers. The only barrier I had was with my project, just because I switched it and I had to complete it in about a month and a half rather than the 3 months. So that was why it was like super intense for me. Yeah, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that ties in with Jess's question. She said, what was the hardest part of the EPA? So you've answered that for her.
Hardest part of the EPA was the professional discussion. That's what I found. Just because I think the questions that they asked were slightly different than I was expecting. So they I'm trying to remember if there's competency in the scenario. I think the competency we thought were mainly behavior based, and they actually can be on any of the KSBs that are highlighted on the document, whereas I kind of prepared only for the behaviors, so I was thrown off a bit then. But the more that you revise, because we're allowed to take notes into that part of the like exam, but because the questions are a bit different, I kind of had to go off my notes. So just like trust in yourself and just be confident, because even if you think like it's not going well, if you're saying the right things and hitting those keywords and making those connections, then that is what shows to the examiner. So like, don't worry.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Sorry, it's like all coming back to me. It's only a month ago that I did this, but my brain kind of hides it. But
thank you. We've got a question from Amy about managing the multiple choice exam itself, e.g. time management, staying calm, etc. Amy, I just want to clarify, was that in relation to the CIM exam that you've got to do? Because we have got, if you go into your CIM general resources, in the 2024 syllabus tab, there's a video in there which explains about the different kinds of questions that you'll be coming up against in the exams at the different levels. So for example, with level 3 and level 4, you might have more straight multiple choice test questions. For the latter parts of the level 4 and level 6, it might be more progressive questions. So they'll give you a scenario and then that same scenario will progress through. But there's lots of helpful videos there. Tips for staying calm in an exam. Any tips there?
Breathe.
I'm a fidgeter.
You're a
So
fidgeter.
having like something like a stress ball or even like a pen, like I'm doing so now. Not that I'm stressed, but just like something to fidget with. Like honestly, you'll be working through the questions, but you'll physically be doing something else, and that like kind of what's called grounds you, like takes you back. You're not. This isn't a be it or end all, and it isn't as scary as you may think. Just yeah.
So in my time in FE, sorry, Margaret, in my time in FE, working with lots of students doing different exams, some hairbands and scrunchies were something that we said, if you've got a scrunchie and you can ping it on your hand, or a hairband and pinging it on your hand sort of brings you back to where you need to be and keeps you calm. Deep breathing as well. We used to recommend, well, I still do actually, power stance before you go into an exam. So tricking your body into making you feel confident. So literally like power stance, imagine you're a rock star, how are you going to stand on the stage? Doing that, hands on hips, chest up, head up before you sort of get started. It works, it really does. Like, it's the power of positivity, I would say. Okay.
I think that's a good point that you make there, Hazel, about your body posture. I think it makes you feel more confident. If you sit up straight, head held high, it makes you feel a bit more confident. And remember that if it's a interview, the professional, I forgot
professional discussion, yeah.
Remember, these people are human beings. They know that you're going to be under pressure. They know you're going to be nervous. They've been through it themselves. So, try to remember that they do appreciate that you are going to be nervous. But I think if you can Google that as well, breathing techniques that can help you. As Hazel said, deep breathing, but there are special techniques you can use, and I'm not an expert on those, but you can Google that and find out how to do that properly.
Yeah. Is it what's he called? Yim Hof? I can't remember what it's called. The Iceman who goes in like a bucket of ice. He does Wim Hof. That's him. He does loads of breathing exercises. And then another thing, Amy, for like time management and practicing, there are the mock exams on the CIM mock exam platform. So, and again, that's in the assessment section of your refinery module page, but I'll email you after this just to like explain where everything is and if you need any more help with that. So we have a question from Christian. Do you suggest use of platforms like Cite This For Me for big bibliography, or will this flag as AI use?
Unfortunately, I've never heard of this.
No,
I've never heard of that platform. I simply used a resource that was given by my mentor, Diane, and just followed that. Like, it was a big list of it was dependent on the type of resource that you were trying to cite anyway. And then it was pretty much like step by step following it. So I don't know if it, as you said, Hazel, it's like different for CIM and stuff like that. But at least for my level 4 one, I just followed it, and everything seemed to be okay.
Was part of the question whether that would be seen as use of AI? Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. I know if you're doing, well, certainly when I was doing my PhD, but like students who were doing final year, undergraduate dissertations, we used to, and I'm not suggesting you use this because it's quite expensive, got it from the university, Endpoint, but what I am saying, we used a package called Endpoint that did it all automatically for us, and that wasn't seen as using as plagiarism or AI.
Yeah.
or anything like that. It was just a recognised way of doing accurate referencing. So I don't know.
think it's yeah, I think you'd be fine to use that.
Yeah.
Because it's the reference is the reference no matter where it comes from. So
yeah.
Yeah. So and Kristen says you copy and paste the paper web address and it creates your Harvard reference for you. So that sounds like a yeah, that's yeah, that sounds fine to me, because you're not, it would still be the same no matter where you copied and pasted that from. So because the source is the source, you're not, yeah. Okay, so I think that was everybody's questions for the moment. Let me just check the chat and see if there's any in there. So, oh, thank you, Adriana. Okay. Oh, Emily is typing. Oh, thank you, very helpful. Yes, so if we've got no other questions, we can leave it there for today. Thank you so much, everybody. Amy, I will email you with the video and the links about the multiple choice test. And then if anybody needs anything else, please do get in touch with us. And as I said, there'll be more assignment webinars coming up in the future. So keep an eye on our socials, and yes, we will be in touch soon, and hope everybody has a lovely weekend.
Yeah, and good luck, everyone.
Yes, good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you, guys. Thank you
Bye.
for your time today.
Have a great weekend.
And you.
And
Supposed to be nice tomorrow, but all right then. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, thanks, Margaret.